And so I've now continued the video. So she had tested negative, and she had to have a liver panel to see if she could take the medicine for that, because she tested, actually tested positive or whatever. She tested like she could have it. And it's something that I had to deal with years later myself, because using a radionic saliva test through Dr. Richard Lloyd, who is an expert on RIFE, R-F-I-E, and a chiropractor, and frequency medicine, and radionic saliva tests. I used Dr. Richard Lloyd's radionic saliva test, which indicated that I had a viral version of TB back then, but later it eliminated it, which shocked them because I had done it using the H-A-R-T, Colonel Joe Hart, that's Joe, H-A-R-T, as in Heart Dietary Procedure Plan, and using the viral version of the protocol. Yeah. Because when you're working with people that have been institutionalized back in the 50s and 40s and 30s, when they were in institution all their life, it wasn't unusual for them to have come in contact with tuberculosis. And there is a viral form of latent TB or tuberculosis, which some researchers estimate that maybe up to 1/3 of the global population may have or carry. And that was causing a lot of a big problem for me. So, but with my ex-wife Teresa, she used the Dr. Richard Schultz kidney cleanse to get rid of an actual verified kidney stone, which she passed out and went to the emergency room in Independence, Missouri. They did the sonogram or the ultrasound on that stuff. They actually verified that it was a sizable, and I'm not exaggerating now, a sizable kidney stone, in which she used Dr. Richard Schultz kidney dissolve routine to get rid of without surgery, because I don't think she had insurance, and it was going to be a hell of a medical bill for her. And so she did the routine. She did the 2-week intestinal formula, Dr. Richard Schultz colon cleanse with intestinal formula number 1, intestinal formula number 2 in the second week part of that, of the 2 weeks. And then she went into the kidney cleanse, Dr. Richard Schultz kidney cleanse, and the Dr. Richard Schultz kidney stone dissolve routine. Now, Hulda Clark has her recipe and her protocol for the same. Amalux Herbal, A-M-A-L-U-X, Herbal. I think they're located in Canada now. They have the European version of the dissolve routine, which I think involves a teaspoon, maybe 3 times a day or so, of magnesium oxide, which is a white powder. It's a very, very fine powder, but I believe it's magnesium oxide, and I believe it's a teaspoon, maybe it's a 1/4 teaspoon, but like 3 times a day, maybe 5 times a day, over a week or something like that. Again, I'm not an expert. I don't have the exact protocols right now, but I know Amalux Herbal will share that with you if you contact them. But I have done those routines, and I've also done they claim there's 2 types of kidney stones, and there are 2 different methods to dissolve depending on which type of kidney stone that you have. The brandy tincture with European juniper berries, fresh juniper berries, or high quality juniper berries. I got mine at Clover's health food store once in Columbia, for example. I think Pacific Botanicals in Oregon or Washington. And there was another Pacific Botanicals, and there was one more that Dr. Richard Schultz used to recommend for the freshest, organic, medicinal quality herbal plants, herbs. So I was either doing the magnesium oxide routine, as I learned through Amalux Herbal, or I was using the brandy tincture with the European juniper berries, about an ounce an hour, every hour, for 8 times in a day for 2 or 3 days, I think 3 days. And so between the two, in terms of what Amalux Herbal taught, I was dissolving one of 2 types of kidney stones that I could have. Now, that's the information I have from them. Again, this is for entertainment and information purposes only. I'm not a medical doctor. I don't give medical advice. So, but the Hulda Clark routine and protocol for kidney cleansing, which she recommends first before you do the liver flush, I have to tell you, I just didn't always do that. I did the intestinal formula, and I did the anti-parasite tincture. or 2 full weeks before I start with the first liver flush. Now, on that note, I've also seen someone have a failure with the Dr. Hulda Clark style liver flush when they failed and neglected and did not do the anti-parasite tincture for 2 weeks before the first flush. And I think ideally you take a week break if it's the wormwood cloves and black walnut hull tincture, like Dr. Clarkia is another product that's actually bottled with that and available through the internet, or at least it has been in the past. The person that did that, Dr. Hulda Clark style liver flush or liver cleansing, that Hulda Clark style liver flushing, they actually got very sick, because if you don't do the anti-parasite tincture or routine, and if you've got parasites that will block or interfere with that flush or the stones, and it might just make it, you can get very, very ill. You can get very, very sick. So it's important not to skip the basics. And the basics are colon cleansing first. Clark recommends the kidney cleanse first. I never really did that much or that many times. I did do always the intestinal formula before the first cleanse and the anti-parasite tincture before the first cleanse. But ideally, it's good to do the 2 weeks anti-parasite tincture, take a week break, and then do it for another 2 weeks, I think. Now, that's something you can look up in the protocol or the books that are by Hulda Clark. Now, I've seen those things, and I've covered a lot of aspects here that I may not have covered before. There's one more thing I might share, unless I think of something else, and that is that I did use a lot of frequency medicine. I was corresponding with and participating as a layperson with an F-scan or frequency scan 2 device, which is considered a Class 1 licensed medical device out of Switzerland, and a Class 1 licensed medical device also in Germany. It's kept low-key. They didn't want me to talk about it much or share much about it because they're trying to develop that technology. They don't want to attract the attention of big pharma or the big pharmaceutical companies, because in developing that research, they wanted to be able to continue to get funding and not have any kind of problems, and the kind of problems that can come with the kind of things that impinge upon big pharmaceutical company profits or big medicine profit. So I participated in that research. A lot of it was also involving not only the contact device or device that I had with me, which were actually, I had up to 3 or 4 different devices at one time or at different points in time, but it also would involve the remote transmission of frequencies over a long distance, like halfway across the world. And that would be running out of Dr. Jeff Sutherland's lab in Boston. But he's a super genius. This is the kind of technology that they're developing along with other scientists on the International Space Station, are used for monitoring, scanning, treating the organ systems of the cosmonauts or astronauts, for example, on the International Space Station, etc., etc. So he's a very, very advanced type of frequency medicine or even electromedicine. And at one point, Sutherland had sent me an email, very serious research scientist, also a former Top Gun pilot with the U.S. Air Force that used to, he's a computer programmer too and the Scrum Master. He would help with the computer systems as a Top Gun fighter pilot in Vietnam for the U.S. Air Force. So he's a genius. So I would send him results, and he'd send me frequency sets, and I'd scan and send him scans and results, and we'd correspond back and forth, and I paid him a certain amount of money every month. And this went on for some years, from something like maybe 2002 into 2011. So there are frequency sets to run if you have that type of advanced research equipment, let's call it. And now Hulda Clark, everybody that knows her work knows that she gets into frequency work big time, and that's the reason I'm going to share this, because I was going with quite a bit of different between Dr. Richard Lloyd. Dr. Richard Lloyd used the radionic saliva test for testing certain things using that method, which I found to be critically valuable and incredibly valuable. But I used the heart dietary procedure plan and the viral version of that plan out of the heart dietary procedure protocol book, which they're very hard to find now, I think. I used to have a lot of them at one time. And I've talked to I talked to Colonel Joe a few times by phone before he passed away, and I'm very thankful to Frankly Speaking Radio that was out of Arkansas, Missouri. I don't know if they're still active or not, but Frank Whalen had him on many times, and was able to call Colonel Joe and talk to him, Joe Hart, H-A-R-T, before, years before he passed on. So that's a little bit about what I dealt with, and the viral part of the heart dietary procedure plan involved a rinse routine, mouth rinse routine with high oxalic acid, and avoiding blockers like I think it was B6 and citric acid and electromagnetic fields. Those things. Any of those things would block or reduce the oxalic acid, and for a period of time you brought up the oxalic acid through diet and through, if you're using an antiviral routine, you're using an actual rinse preparation 2 or 3 times a day that further was just pure oxalic acid really, which would absorb in. And then in theory, if it was a viral based condition or a disease or a situation that needed to be addressed in terms of virus, that would be the purpose for that protocol. But the radionic saliva test is what determined that on Dr. Richard Lloyd's side of things. So that's a little bit about how I was involved with the use of radionics, or more specifically scalar wave magnetics, or exactly frequencies in terms of the S scan itself, which could also scan for viruses, bacteria, mold, and through the rife range of 1 to 10,000 could determine unbelievable things that people wouldn't believe if I told them in terms of conditions, just through the rife range, and scanning in less than about 10 or 20 minutes. Actually, it was a pretty fast scan. I think it was more like 10 or 15 minutes. I have friends that saw that. They used the device. They saw it. They were mind blown. They're like, how could it know this? How could it find this? And it did. It was amazing. What I could do with alternative medicine or frequency medicine research was mind-blowing. And there's a group of friends out there in Marshall, Missouri especially, but across the world. I've shown a few people in Russia and a few people in Ukraine, and it's mind-blowing. But I had a very real genius scientist, medical scientist, and computer programmer. One time he wrote me, he signed off as Dr. Jeff Sutherland, CEO, Microsoft Operating Room of the Future. They could do detect stuff remotely, and that's what they were trying to do with the ISS. You want as less weight, as less equipment on there as possible. And so the remote techniques of being able to scan a cosmonaut's organ systems, for example, and then turn around and strengthen or treat it using scalar wave magnetics or whatever types of technologies they were trying to employ like that are just mind-blowing. And it's pretty amazing. So, there are frequency sets specific frequency sets that can be run, let's say, some period of time before the liver flush that in theory would address gallstones or liver stones or whatever. Now, I don't have much real experience with that. I might have tried it once, but I didn't even need that. So for me, I read on CureZone and the Liver Flush Forum about the benefits of liver cleanse and Hulda Clark's liver flush, and I read the results that people said that they were getting or that they didn't get, and then they try to qualify, like, was it allergies that this flush helped with after you did it once or twice or 3 times or 5 times? Was it a certain percentage that said no, 0, another percentage says, oh, it helped me, they're gone, or another percentage says, well, they're like 33% gone. That kind of surveys they were taking on the CureZone website and posting from the forum users the alleged results or their alleged answers to the questionnaires on there. So that's a little bit about what I know from that, and that this is a lot longer than what I wanted to make it, but I want to kind of cover the whole thing in the update to my playlist, because it's been a number of years since I've done this update. But I thought about it when I went through just about 2 or 3 days ago, and I saw that there were questions over these years that some of the viewers of my videos in my playlist on liver flush, liver cleanse, Hulda Clark, and how I did the liver cleanse. And those videos are still up. You can go back and review. This is not something I'm having to script, because I've already been there and done all that. And I'm just helping to share some of my experience and what I'm aware of, because it is a lot of research. I don't know if Cure Zone is still up and operational, especially the liver flush forum or the liver cleanse forum and Hulda Clark and all that. It's an amazing website. I think it was out of Europe, but they were always concerned about persecution, because this is an area of research that's very much persecuted in certain countries and by big pharma interest, or certain big interest. So that's why I'm making this video absolutely for entertainment and information purposes only. And I'm not a medical doctor, and I'm not an expert on this, and I don't give medical advice, and I don't treat illness or disease. This is purely for information and entertainment purposes only. Now, another story. There is a woman, elderly woman, that had a husband, and he had been a victim of a car wreck, head injury. She herself was not fully functional, and so when you are on the prescription medication for urinary incontinence, you would have a side effect of memory loss listed. Officially, it's something to know if you're in the nursing home, because you can start to wet yourself, and then suddenly you're off to the doctor by your good care provider or a manager of the place or whatever, and you're off to the doctor, and the doctor is going to write the script back. This is 25 years ago, right? For ditapren, or there's another name for one that's the same or similar. But the official listed side effects for this medicine, at least back then, and if it's still around, if it's still used, ditapren, and the other one might have been the same or a different name. A listed side effects was memory loss. So you see a woman start losing her memory to the point she walks in the room and doesn't even know who her husband is. Michael, who is this man in my room? Or where's the bathroom? Or coming out of a place of recreation during the day, getting in the wrong car, getting on the wrong bus. That profound impaired type of rapid memory loss, to the point of where if you didn't know that that was a possible side effect of the urinary incontinence, the medication that she was put on for urinary incontinence, you would think that she has dementia and is off to a skilled care lockdown nursing home. That kind of profound, dramatic memory loss. But again, this is for information and entertainment purposes only. I'm just being entertaining today. Of course, this story isn't true. Dr. Richard Schultz taught in the Save Your Life video series how to take echinacea, for example, for building the immune system for like 2 weeks, and you build up your white blood cell count, you build up your immune system. Take some time off, take it again for a while, that kind of thing. But how to go plant the herbs, how to collect the herbs, where to get the herbs if you can't do either, how to get them out of the wild, how to grow them in your garden, that kind of thing. So one time there was the dandelion roots, what people in Missouri might call weeds, and do typically. Others call salad, like if you were in France, right? Dandelions. But if you take the roots, and maybe even the whole plant, you put it in a blender, and you put a little PGA in there and vodka, And vodka because it has both water and alcohol, so that the water extracts certain chemicals out of the plant, while the alcohol extracts another group of chemicals out of the medicinal herb that you're wanting to use. And so after some months of this extract, being made on the full moon and shaken every day, kept in a dark place 2 or 3 times, maybe 5 times a day, 3 times a day minimum, shaken, strained after 2 weeks or maybe 3 months. Then you got a whole big jar of it if you made enough, and maybe taking, like a quarter of a cup, or even a shot glass, or even, a couple of tablespoons of that, let's say 3 or 4 times a day. Some people may conjecture that might just help get rid of urinary incontinence. You build your bladder and your liver. You build your health back. Now this is kind of a well-known, old school, hey, everybody knows about dandelion. Everybody can look that up. But if you're in this fantasy story, if you're in this fairy tale that I'm telling, that is one part, but the other part is getting off the ditrophin, or I don't think it was called oxybutynin. I can't remember the name of it. There was another name, and it was also for urinary incontinence, and it also had the side effect of dementia. Not dementia, but dementia like senile, like memory loss, official side effect, memory loss. And I mean real possible side effect. So what you do, you have to, if you're, being supervised with that by a doctor, especially if you're already in a nursing home, you'd have to go back to your doctor. Maybe several times if he's a little bit stubborn or a little bit skeptical about all things herbal or nutritional supplements or whatever. You just don't usually get better from things like that, as you find out, because most people aren't doing herbalism and nutrition and exercise and actually getting well. That's not the profit paradigm or model that some standard medicine of the world is not working with that. Anyway, you have to be sure to get off the medicine if you're having that as a side effect, because you can get the best herbs in the world and you can get rid of your urinary incontinence, let's say. And I'm not a medical doctor. I don't give medical advice. I don't teach medicine. I'm not an expert. This is for information and entertainment purposes only. Okay? I don't do medicine. I'm not a doctor. Not medical. But you would have to check. That was our job. That was my job. I had to check. I had to pull out the physician's desk reference. I had to look for side effects. My staff had to look for side effects. They had to see if the tremors were coming from, maybe they had too much coffee, maybe they got a bad news from their family on a phone call, maybe they had it out with their roommate, maybe if they had a roommate, maybe they were taking a medicine that a side effect was tremors, loss of weight, loss of eyesight, loss of hearing. Diabetes is another known side effect of a particular medicine in America that has to do with an antidepressant, I think, or I don't remember if it was an antidepressant or another type of medicine. But there are some serious side effects that actually happen when certain medicines are taken, especially over a length of time, or if you're taking them and you're basically like left on them without improving your health or the circumstances behind that. So I'm just reminded of that. You can use herbs and get well, but if you're on a medicine and it's creating a side effect, if it is the cause of a side effect, that side effect may never go away unless the medicine is stopped. And when you're in the nursing care business, you have to take your client in, and the doctor has to make that decision along with the client, unless the client is, typically when you're in a nursing home, that's what you like to see happen. There's the issues of patients' rights. and issues of if the client has their own free choice in that, if they're not a guardian of the state, for example, and so on and so forth. So that's how that would work out. And if they were a guardian of the state, typically you wouldn't get a change unless the guardian itself, which was usually a family member or the public administrator, for example, then they would have to be contacted typically. And 9 times out of 10, they're going to go along with the doctor's decision. Look, I'm going to stop with all that. That's just something I remember. Being back in the nursing care business, being an administrative assistant for Vanderpool Care Incorporated. But there's a lot of ancient knowledge on herbalism. I am reminded by an Achim Wolf, Achimwolf. I don't know if he had an E on the last. But he passed over a contact note on the Billy Edward Albert Meyer case, and it talked about how during a plague time, they had a certain village, they had a great herbalist that was with the monastery, I believe. And basically the story went that everybody in that village did really, really well. Nobody got sick. And I just saw that post the other day. So, but I'm at Borjomi, Central Park. This is about the Hulda Clark liver flush and how I did the Hulda Clark liver cleansing, liver flush. I mentioned the frequency research, the frequency protocols, because that is a part of Hulda Clark's work as well. But for me, I got mine mainly from Dr. Jeff Sutherland, the Frequency Foundation. Heart is H-A-R-T. The Heart Dietary Procedure Plan I mentioned is a book that I got, and I used that protocol, and I confirmed the great success of that through the radionic saliva testing through Dr. Richard Lloyd, who is familiar, and vice versa, Dr. Jeff Sutherland. It is a beautiful, beautiful mountain stream. So this is a part of my liver flush videos. I hope this helps for those that are already familiar with Hulda Clark's work and her books. You know a lot of what I just talked about already, and you're familiar with some of these things. And some of you that have never read her books or been on the Cure Zone forums or done these kind of, a lot of this can be quite new to you. You can go to Hulda Clark's books, or maybe there's some websites on her material. I don't know if the Frequency Foundation is still accepting people applying for consult or not. Dr. Richard Lloyd on RIFE, R-F-I-E, and his radionics saliva test. These are all things, along with Frankly Speaking Radio, Frank Whalen, you know, the Heart Dietary Procedure Plan. These are all things that have been immensely helpful and valuable in my path to greater health and wellness. And the same with Sam Beiser, initially, his newsletter, Save Your Life video series, and Dr. Richard Schultz. It's S-H. I don't know if it's S-C-H or S-H-U-L-Z-E. He's got, I think there's a lot of videos that he either has like on Google videos or on the YouTube. So like Dr. Richard Schultz is amazing. But as you can see, I kind of tried some different things on my own with these protocols. Some of his stuff I like best. Hulda Clark's liver flush, liver cleanse, I found to be my preferred method of when I would do that. But I have done Dr. Richard Schultz kidney dissolve routine, and I saw Teresa do it, and Teresa did it with great success. So once again, sincerely, authentically, this video is just for entertainment purposes only. This video is for information purposes only. I am not a medical doctor. I do not diagnose, treat, dose illness. I don't practice medicine. I'm not an expert. That needs to be known and understood. I am somebody that has used some of these methods and have seen others use some of these things that I've talked about. And in my storytelling today. I hope it's inspirational. I hope it's entertaining, and I hope that it's informative. Everyone can do their own research if they choose. That's it. This is for information, entertainment purposes only. I'm at Borjomi Central Park. I'm going to finish this video out. Thanks for watching. It is a beautiful, beautiful day. It is my day 10 here in Borjomi, the mountain resort city in the country of Georgia, September 30, 2020. Cheers to good health and cheers to a good lifestyle and positivity. Hope you enjoyed my stories and my little tidbits of information and stories from a very long, long journey. From all the way back in 1996 at minimum. At minimum. 1997. I'm more into 2009 and 2011. And so I haven't revisited some of these topics for many years. And that's not such a bad thing. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, if you like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching. This is Michael Vayner.